Why, hello. It's me, Jeremy Vaeni, yet again. I shaved this time, because I care. And because I was excited. I was excited and I wanted to look better this time. Why was I excited? Because I received not only a text question, or set of questions, from one Joe UFO, but a video response as well, asking basically the same questions in convenient video form. And they were good questions, and so that gives me an excuse to do another video. Thought I'd shave for the occasion. I will read rather than refer to the video. They both ask basically the same thing, but it's just easier for me to read this and then unpack it as we go. Okay, so Joe writes, I guess the problem I have with Kundalini awakening is that it seems so random. Someone could practice yoga for a lifetime and not experience it, or you could be working in a slaughterhouse and just have it hit you out of nowhere. Those searching, myself included, even though we know and understand the old pathless path and don't search responses from those who have experienced the awakening, are just left wondering if we will ever experience it. We search and try different things because, well, why not? It's so random anyway, you may as well do something that relaxes you, gives you calmness, and also exercises you, because you may experience Kundalini awakening, or you may not. Why does it not happen to us all as a natural part of life? If it did, we would have a very different world than we do now. The problem, then, is with the energy itself. Arise in us all, rather than just randomly selecting people who then tell us we need to do nothing. It's incredibly frustrating. Yeah, I hear that. By the way, what I liked about the video most was your shirt said something like, why so serious? You had a communion alien bust, followed by a little bit down further on the bookcase, like the complete Star Trek, I don't know which, box set. I don't know which, I think Enterprise, but what do I know? Anyway, I like all of that. Plus, your video version of this, with your accent, made it sound even more Monty Python than it already is, and it is pretty much a Monty Python skit, right? It's like, well, how do I achieve this great enlightenment? Well, nothing. Well, how do I do nothing? Well, I don't know. Just believe me that this happens, and it's correct. Okay, so what's problem one here? Kundalini awakening seems so random. Well, one of the things that I guess I neglected to make evident, I was going to say clear, but I don't think I addressed it at all in the last video, is that this Kundalini energy, although we talk about it as something separate from us or in us, like an organ, you know, waiting to rise and blah, blah, blah. It's not actually that. It's actually us. It is more us than us. And so the thing that is in the way of you knowing yourself is you. Well, okay, this is Monty Python too. But no, if you think of the brain as sort of being the center of things in that their body, and it explores the world and itself through itself by projecting a sense of self that is Joe UFO, Jeremy Vaeni. What if it didn't do that? What if it didn't project Joe? What would you be? Would you be this comatose jellyfish, or what would you be? Well, that's when the thing that we experience as an other thing, we would experience as rising within us and taking over, or whatever. But it's actually not that. It's maybe the analogy is helpful if we think of a faucet, and you are a drip. And you experience yourself as dripping along, and someone says, no, there's this other thing in us. It's called pouring. And you can actually pour out of the faucet. Well, how do you pour? What's causing that drip? What's causing that drip of personality? Well, it's the handle there, right? So twist the handle. I don't know if this is helping, but you get the point, right? Silence is twisting the handle, which pours forth the more you than the drip. But until that becomes apparent, there is the experience of this and that. And the that, which is Kundalini energy, for you is hypothetical or a myth or whatever it is. For someone who has it as an experience, well, it's a real thing, but it's an experience. And for someone who always has the faucet on, they know it as themselves, that they are that. So why would you want to do it in the first place, I guess, is another part of the question. You know, what's the point? To be more you than you. I mean, it's, again, we can only speak in analogies here, right? It's similar to saying, why would I want to be an adult? Why would I want to mature and grow? Why would I want to be a human and not an animal? These are all things that we have within ourselves to be, and we know that experiencing more deeply and fully as we go along in life is enriching. Sometimes that enrichment makes us kill ourselves, but let's not talk about that. I mean, it's not always good, right? I'm just saying, I'm not trying to make this a bliss out thing. I'm just saying, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Let's go back to the text. Okay, so reviewing the text again, I see that the issue here is that you already have an answer born of frustration, and the answer is, well, we search and try different things because, well, why not? It's so random anyway, and there's nothing that you can do anyway. It's all incredibly frustrating. The problem is with the energy itself. No, you don't. These are all your answers born of frustration, not born of experience. And of course, therein is the conundrum of that's getting in the way of the experience, which you admit. You know that that's probably what's going to come out of my mouth. I would question whether it is random or not. I don't know that it is. I think it may appear random, but we don't know. For those people who claim to have just spontaneously awoken, we don't know what was going on at that very moment. Did they just awaken, or did they have a moment of clarity or a moment of just complete stillness? That may have been random, a random moment of stillness where this thing went and activated. We don't know. What did they do with it? I mean, I don't know who you're referring to specifically, so I don't know if it became them or became an experience for them, if that makes sense. But like I said in the last one, I mean, what is it all for? Well, again, it's you. It's more you than you. So it's you waking up into a fuller sense of self that is making the body, psyche, whatever else, full and active and healthy for part deux, which is this sort of God realization or whatever. And then that becomes the other thing that we can argue about, whether that's just an experience or whether we should be living on that as a stage. But to back engineer that for a second, the thing that I find clever for me, if I may trumpet myself here, was in having that experience of leaving, slit opens in the spine, energy pours in, energy exits, I leave with it, and then go into this big identity as the universe, that whole thing that I've talked about on other shows and written about in my book. As soon as I go out and there's the nothingness state, which is what it is, and then there's the circle of clarity, just over black, which expands. And in that moment, I do recognize that not only am I that, whatever that is, that clearness, that ball of clarity, or that circle, 2D circle of clarity over blackness stretching out and then snapping and then becoming the universe, and then I am all of those components as well. Not only am I that out there as the me who has left the building, so to speak, who's traveled out of my own body to become that, or whatever, experience that, but I also am aware of myself in my own brain. I am aware of my brain. When that elasticity happens, I can feel it, and I think I'm dying. I actually, as I'm experiencing this as myself, I'm right back in my body experiencing me as myself. And afraid that I'm dying. I am both of these things, and I'm all of the visual shit. Like all of the, I am the trees, I am the wind, I am the whatever. The hot rock jettisoning through space, all of that stuff. All of that is you. All of that is me. All of that is we because all of we are one, and so we're finger puppets on the hand of oneness. Along with the rocks and polar bears and ants and trees and this chair I'm sitting in. All of it is components of the one hand. And so, in realizing that, that's when I realized, or in thinking about it later, no, this isn't an experience. This is a stage that I'm experiencing as an experience, because at the end of it, I let it all go, right? But could I live there? Could I be that guy? Because it's not like I really went anywhere. You have to have, because I was me, because I wasn't at one with this, I didn't experience at oneness with it, right? I experienced me traveling out of me, out of my body, and experiencing this grand thing. But then subtly realizing, oh yeah, no, I'm also still here, because everything is one, including me back in my bed having this experience. So what's the point of having that experience? I don't think there's a good point in having that experience, frankly, except to say, well, there's something beyond us, or there's something more true than what Western society deems true. But I think that could ultimately, if it's just an experience, depress you or send you on a guru messiah complex tangent, or any of those sort of things. Therefore, I think it is only useful outside of the notation that reality is bigger than we expected, or one-year than we expected, as rational materialists. I think, therefore, that we have to live there. That is what is important, and that is what we are. We're the beings that can live there 24/7 and be self-aware. Are there other beings that can do this? Maybe. I'm not. But as far as we know, we're it. And so why aren't we doing that? Well, we're not doing that because it's not just waking up in us. Well, what's not waking it up in us? Us! We're in the way. You and I are in the way of this thing. And I keep saying this thing, and we're in the way, and again, language is breaking it up, and it's not broken up. It's, we're breaking it up. I'm breaking it up by speaking it to you. I hope that this is making some sort of sense. I mean, maybe I'll just do the Twitter version here and say that the reason it's important is because it is what we truly are. There is no Kundalini energy inside of me. There is energy, how do I put this? There is oneness identity, which includes big spirit, little spirit, ego, and all things in between. And because we can be that identity, we should be, in the same way that because we can mature into healthy adults, we should mature into healthy adults, or else we atrophy and die as children, right? And that's what we're seeing. The problem isn't with the energy. The problem is that when the animal wakes up into consciousness, into self-awareness such that we have, the brain immediately self-reflects and creates this ego thing to figure itself out, figure out the world, to not be scared in it, to form consensus opinion with other people about what's going on so that we can all feel safe as we go through this unknown thing called life, and then enter the ultimate unknown, which is death. So that's just a function of what happens when the animal wakes up. If you want to go deeper than that, you could say that the reason that that's happening is because all things that can be expressed will be expressed, because the moment that creation happened, they all were. And so we're living one of those expressions. And that doesn't mean that nonsense, therefore, is true. Like, New Agers will go into, well, everything, then I can walk through this table, even though I can't. But they'll hypothesize about it, or, maybe part of the problem is that you believe we create our own reality, which we've been told again and again. And my challenge to anyone who believes that is, then do it. I'd love to see the after effects of this having created reality, instead of people constantly telling me that we do. Well, why do we keep preaching that? Because we love to hear ourselves talk, because we're scared, because we don't know what the fuck is going on. Instead of dealing with that, we project outwardly and we go, oh, I know what's going on. It's Jesus. No, it's not Jesus. That's for those religious idiots. We create our own reality. Now I'm not an idiot anymore. Now I'm in the know. We create our own reality. And like, just everybody shut up. And then the Kundalini happens. But I digress. So not all nonsense is true. That's why we have imagination. We've got this vast, infinite cloud storage to hold nonsense and put it out as animation. There you go. So I guess if you're going to fall back and say, well, then why don't we do these meditations and these yoga exercises and get a little bit of clarity that way and get a little bit of quietness that way and various abilities and stuff, why don't we just do that and call it a day? Because that's not what we are. And we will atrophy, like we're doing, and we will kill ourselves off. Like we're doing. So if that's what you want, okay. If that's not what you want, then, you know, but it is a conundrum. You have to give up wanting it in the first place. I guess maybe the difference between just giving up and saying, in frustration, saying, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm trying everything and none of it's working. Screw it. Let's just go bowling, dude. And what happened with, say, me, is that I did the work, you know? I did the work and came to the conclusion, or came to the truth, of what that really means to give up. It's not that you're not giving up the desire because in the back of your head you think you're going to be sneaky and I'm going to give up this desire to seek. And then something's going to happen. That which I seek is going to... I mean, this is the danger of me having written a book about this and speaking about it. I think this is why, for instance, Jiddu Krishnamurti, in all of his infinite genius, did not. He never said what happens next. He never talked beyond what his audience was capable of handling, and all of that. He was very careful. And I'm coming along to be less careful, mainly because, I remember having a conversation with a friend where I was telling her all this stuff going on with me, and I was like, wow, I can't, why aren't people experiencing this? Why aren't they doing this? This is what we are. This is what we're about. And she was saying, people don't have all the time that you have. I don't remember, maybe I was unemployed at the time or something, but she said, people work and they have families and they have, normal everyday lives that are time consuming, and they don't even give this stuff a second thought. So I thought when I wrote my book, well, gee, why don't I just give every answer to all of your desires? Why don't I give you all the dessert? All of the epiphanies and stuff that Jiddu Krishnamurti never would have. Because maybe we're at that place in society now where that's what we need. We don't have time to figure this out on our own. So here it all is on a plate. Now, the magic trick is, alakazam, that was what that hand gesture was, that ain't going to get you anything. Because these are all after the fact. But maybe they get rid of those desires. So for a person who's saying, why don't we just do yoga and meditate, or, read these types of books forever and ever? Well, what if you read the one that has all the answers in it? Does that shut your brain up to go, okay, I get it. These are the answers. This is the big ending of Lost. Here are all the answers. Oh, how satisfying. Although probably not so much for a lot of people who watch Lost, but you know what I mean. Here are all the answers. Now, does the brain go, and relax, and then this experience? Well, apparently not for you. But some people have said that it has worked that way. But it worked or not worked, I don't know. That was just my intention with it. Because again, it's not an anti-desire state of mind that you're getting into. Because that is still desire. It's still you wanting that and being frustrated and so forth. But it's really clearly seeing, sit with yourself not in frustration. I mean, and not because I'm saying sit with yourself in non-frustration. Just do it. Just sit with yourself and just say, you know, what is this? You know, what is it that I'm not getting? And just keep, I don't know, keep trying to get at that thing until you break it up for yourself in your own head. Oh yeah, no, I get it. The problem is I'm still the guy sitting here looking for that answer. I'm still, as I was still the guy sitting on my couch reading Jiddu Krishnamurti. I got all this just as you get all of this. I understood all of this just as you understand all of this. And then I had that other realization. Oh, now I understand that I'm that guy who understands all of this, and that has become my barrier. And just in that understanding, there was just this childlike, oh, huh. I mean, it was just complete innocence. It wasn't frustration, and it wasn't another answer. It was just, huh. You know? So I put the book down, and I was content. And in that moment of contentness was just this silence. And in that silence, I came alive. And unfortunately, when I speak it, I talk about it as Kundalini rising, because that's what we all know, which doesn't sound like I came alive. It sounds like Kundalini rose in me and came alive. No. It's just that if I'm sorry this is taking so long, but if we go back to the other thing that I talked about in my book, which I stole from Ken Wilber, the integral philosopher, of approaching this stuff first person, second person, third person. Third person would be like you see God, Old Testament style, you know, God is this judgmental sky father archetype that you have no relationship with except to please and fear. Then there's the Jesus-y second person, you know, now God is in relationship with you as you can relate to it. And then first person is the oneness identity, I am. And so the experience of it is the oneness, I am identity. The talking about it, it's just easier in language to break it up as a second person, in a second person language, you know, it is this thing in me that works with me and blah, blah. But that's not what it is. And maybe I should stop doing that. But maybe so should everyone else. I don't know. Anyway, I hope this made more sense than I know it did. I don't know that any of this is helpful because essentially it's you that has to see this for yourself. I can do all the babbling I want. But you're saying, well, I know that. Well, I was there, Joe. I knew that too. I understood everything just like you do in this second person sort of mode. Or maybe it's even third person because it's not real, right? It's just this hypothetical thing that you want, or you suspect is there, or whatever. But then ultimately, what are you going to do? Say, well, it's useless. Therefore, it's got a problem. The problem is the Kundalini energy, you see. It's the way this whole thing is set up. Well, no. I mean, the whole thing is a dilemma. But like any good dilemma, you'll get over it. Hey, Joe. It's a little later in the day, but I just realized something as I'm playing this back to myself here to edit, that in my experience of waking up, that moment of clarity, the going, oh, I get it, I'm still the guy looking for answers or whatever. Well, maybe two things. One is I just want to stress the innocence of that situation. And part of that innocence, well, I guess it really is only one thing. Mainly what that innocence stems from is not knowing what happens next, because my whole thing was reading Jiddu Krishnamurti, and he never did say what comes next. I'd read some other peripheral things here and there, but I never delved into any real comprehensible answers. So in other words, Jiddu Krishnamurti never said, truth is a pathless land. And once you're in that land, Kundalini is going to rise. So I never had that. I didn't know. I had no expectation of what this even was. so that's not important. So even though we're talking about Kundalini, maybe that's even part of the thing that you need to forget, because I guess I had the luxury, if you want to put it that way, of being able to want to see for the sake of seeing, because I didn't know what it was that I was going to see. So when I relaxed and went, oh, I get it, I'm the guy still searching, I'm the guy who thinks he gets it, then I had that moment of silence, and it was a true moment of silence, because I didn't have an expectation to see anything afterwards or to experience anything afterwards, because I hadn't read about it or, watched YouTube videos about all of this stuff, Kundalini and chakras and all of that. So maybe that was an added advantage, the not having an outcome in mind, of still having it be a mystery, even what happened to this Jiddu Krishnamurti character. Something, obviously, because he seems to know a hell of a lot that makes complete rational sense. Anyway, this thing is far too long as it is, and I apologize. Ramble. I hope something in there was helpful. Alrighty, goodbye.